Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start a video right here. I wasn't planning to, but it is Monday, February 22nd, 2021. And I just went into my system for the first time in the morning and did my keyboard shortcut to launch a terminal. First time in probably over a day. And this is what I'm met with, which is not a bad thing. I'm saying this is what I met with. So let's look at it, figure out what we're seeing here, and quickly probably take its advice. This message is shown once a day. To disable it, we can create the file hush login. Okay, so already there's some interesting Microsoft additions to what's going on here. I'm going to guess that because we're running, GNU Linux, which is awesome, but it's something where Microsoft has inserted itself into for its Windows Subsystem for Linux 2, which I would imagine it would. It's not going to use just the absolute default kernel. It's going to modify the kernel with its own special Microsoft thing so that it coexists with Windows. So when Microsoft says it runs an actual genuine Microsoft kernel side by side with Windows, yes, but one qualification: they do stuff to it. And I'm sure it's to get better integration. Let's see what else is going on here. Documentation, management, support, and your system information. Okay, we're not, using very much resources. However, this is the line now where I guess you got to start to pay attention to. A lot of Microsoft people will have the service packs and stuff downloaded silently in the background and then let you know they're available to install, and that's how you keep yourself patched up to date on Windows. However, when you've got the Windows Subsystem for Linux going on, which is like a virtual machine which has its whole own side-by-side parallel operating system going on, there's something else that needs to be updated, and this message that shows once per day will tell you what it is. So there are 14 updates that can be installed immediately. None of them are security updates, so we don't have to rush to it to keep our virtual machine, which is on a virtual LAN, pretty much inaccessible to the internet anyway, secure, but that's another story. To see these additional updates, run apt list upgradable. This will tell us what's upgradable. Okay, and I'll change my font size so it looks a little prettier. And what the heck, right? So sudo for doing it as the super user do apt. Normally I would type apt get update, but I'm going to try and get with the times here. Sudo apt update. And so this is updating our local Ubuntu repository of software. So this concept of software repositories is pretty important because there's different ones you're going to be dealing with. And the one we're dealing with here is the one that works with the apt system under Ubuntu and really Debian. It's the DBPK, Debian Package Management System, really, that's going on. So now that we've updated our local repository of available software, it's really just a directory of what's out there, we can do the next command: sudo apt get upgrade. So you can first see what's upgradable, right? Apt. Oh, well, we already did that, so we're just going to go for it. Sudo apt upgrade using the new terminology. It's going to tell you what it's going to upgrade and ask you to answer yes first. And it generally asks you to answer yes before it makes significant changes to your drive, because it's going to occupy some space when it does this stuff. Oh, yeah. Libraries and installed software occupying space. We've got another discussion coming up because I'm on the verge of showing you locking your two different environments, your two different Python execution environments into working virtual environments, VENVs, Conda environments. So anyway, I just did that upgrade. So now if I exit out of this terminal entirely, and double click that or Control-Alt-T as I do, Ubuntu will come back up, but now it won't have that big long message anymore that I was just met with. It's been upgraded to the latest. You can always confirm sudo apt update. It'll still do a little bit of polling, but it'll see it has nothing really to update. It's got to look to know. So that's the looking part. And then if I tried to do sudo apt upgrade, it would tell you there's nothing that needs it. So thank you very much. We are up to date, and we now have our Ubuntu 20.04 up to date, along with our side-by-side Windows install, which is out here, that has its own method of keeping up to date. And that's just part of being in the world of WSL2, Windows Subsystem for Linux 2. You got a genuine Linux system here, so they're going to prod you along to keep it patched and updated so that there's not more potential, surface area vulnerable on your system. Although for reasons that, hey, I guess I'll illustrate it, right? It's time for a quick pick. Virtual LANs. Control-Alt-R for Art Rage. You can use whatever drawing software of your preference you like. So, I guess it's just a series of different boxes, right? There's the internet at large. Your box is sitting on the internet, but it's not really so much your box here, because you don't connect directly to the internet anymore. There's a router created, and your router creates a local area network on which your box sits. Now, this is now your hardware that you actually work on. So it's, your platform. And your platform often runs virtual machines on them. So of course you see it coming. There's going to be another box here. But you would think this is the virtual machine, right? Nope, just like we have this guy here, the local area network, here we have a VLAN, a virtual local area network. And inside your VLAN lives your virtual machine. And so for this reason, such as WSL2, I should make room for that because it's such a big part of this discussion, lives your VM, such as WSL2, because WSL1 did not work this way. Because you have this VLAN here, you have a security layer where outside things on the internet, the bad guys, I'll draw bad guys as a couple of googly eyes, right? Because whenever I do XIs, I get a lot of YouTube hits. It's trying to look in through, your LAN to your machine to whatever else is running there, and the chances of it actually seeing through your virtual LAN, there's no published services, there's nothing broadcasting itself, it's all wrapped in the hardware, anyway. It's got private IP numbers, not publicly addressable ones. For a whole bunch of reasons, these little servers that you create, these little Linux sessions under Windows Subsystem for Linux, are actually quite secure, quite cut off from the internet. In the same way, by the way, I know about this because it's the same as Linux. And I'll put a sub parenthesis, which is the same as QEMU. This has implications on where I'm going to put my talking head. I guess at this point I'll have it turned off, won't I? Maybe. We'll see. And so I had to figure this out to make sure that the version of Linux I was distributing called Linux was actually secure. And QEMU does this wonderful virtual LAN trick that I learned all about. And I'm like, oh, great, Microsoft's doing the same thing. So it's really nice to have something so tightly integrated so that you can, be in a Linux location here. You see all your forward slashes that you're used to, and you can just type open, and here is your internet. It's not your Internet Explorer, it's your Windows Explorer integration. That's a Windows Explorer window, right? So I could have them side by side like that. If I were to touch a file, touch, touchfoo.txt, txt, you'll see it appear right there, touchfoo.txt. I could double click it. It would come up in Notepad for Windows. I could say, hello world, save that, quit. Got to turn off my terminal bell, I know that. And now I can vim foo.txt and, vim foo.txt, helps if I spell it right. There's my hello world. And you see the .foo.txt.swp file get created there, as Vim does in the directories you work in. I write and quit, and you'll see it disappear as it does. Windows, Linux, tight integration is nice because you stay compatible with your Office. You can run Excel. You can do whatever else you need to with, the mainstream versions of Chrome and stuff. And then you can take versions of it that can live on Linux, manipulate it with the tools here. It's not even we manipulate things that live on the Windows side with the tools you like to use on the Linux side. Something like that. You got the idea. And then on occasion, you move things out into the real cloud world. I'll do a new file here because the next thing I'm going to show you is very dear to my heart. So, of course, you've got, your Windows box. Inside of that, you've got your Linux box. Now, somewhere out here in the cloud, you also have a Linux box. And now the trick is to send your files from here to here. And under Windows, I often like to use notebooks. Okay, so I am a really big fan of notebooks. Even though I am a Vim person, I use the editor of the devil. In the text wars, I side on the play it like a video game camp of VI/Vim in the modern world, as opposed to the play it like a Control-Alt spellcasting macro Lisp self-referential world of Emacs. And Emacs is a more powerful wizardly world. VI is a more conservative, use the defaults and use them everywhere kind of environment. And that is a kind of religion and dogma that gets deep into you. that is very much at odds with notebooks, which are great for noobs. And they're great for exploratory programming, even for advanced people. And I love them, except they seem to be at odds with the dev world, the world of development, where you want to put things as .py files. Because it's going to be the same thing over here, a .py file that you're transmitting, usually through some Git-related mechanism, sometimes rsync. There's a number of ways, but you know, somewhere in here, the Git program is probably going to play a pretty significant role. And sometimes the GitHub site, because it's so fully featured. But now that it's owned by Microsoft, there's going to be a number of people who don't use it for just religious reasons, privacy, proprietary reasons, whatever. It doesn't matter. However, the thing that does matter that I'm getting at is, in order to handle this, to stay on notebooks, to support the exploratory environment that I love, it's very much related to the fact it's a read-eval print loop environment, REPL, R-E-P-L. There's something called nbdev. Because I'm not the first person to have this desire to do it all end-to-end in notebooks. So I'm about to plunge into exploring nbdev. I'm watching the videos on the topic, and I'm pretty excited. So stay with me while I show you that, because it's a path that I really wish to explore. It's exciting that there's something in the free and open source side of the world that is competing with VS Code as for the heart and mind of people who like to work in that exploratory and also self-documenting. There's so much here that's stuff that gets thrown in, but you know, docs and tests and just overall beautiful integration for the purpose of doing development work, which of course means releasing stuff to the public, you know, so that the public can come in and enjoy a little bit of what you're doing through all sorts of ways, either websites you publish or, you know, there's different places people can fetch things. There's the Python packaging index, PyPI, Python packaging index. There's the Conda repository that's part of Anaconda. And then, of course, there's just using things on the web directly, on published websites and blogs and all kinds of things. So that's the world I'm getting into. I'm going to look at really what nbdev brings to the picture for continuing to develop in these notebooks such as I love. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. And don't forget to get Jupyter Lab running on your machine, and of course